Welcome back to another Sunday night show, also known as Drinking Milk and Talking Stocks with Frugal Tiger. We're going to go over some earnings this week, but I also want to talk about a few other things that seem a little bit ominous for the overall market. This past week on Wednesday, we had Jerome Powell, we had the Fed come out, talk about tightening earlier than expected, and it's had a pretty negative impact on the markets. And on top of that, we have cryptocurrencies now basically crashing 20%. If we look at Bitcoin, it had reached a high at 66,000 about a year back. And right now, in like the last week, it's dropped as low as 40,000. Is this ominous that the speculative demand for the overall markets is going to drop or dwindle? This is one factor I would like you guys to consider when buying stocks at these levels. Last week, I talked a little bit about stocks that were seemed oversold heavily, and they continue to get sold here. The Nasdaq seems to be bleeding and seems to be bleeding pretty hard right now. But in general, the markets have been holding very strong technical levels. It's really impossible to really say which way it's holding. My personal take on this matter is a lot of things are looking bearish. If we take a look, a lot of things are looking bearish. The Fed, which has basically been propping up this whole stock market for the last 2 years, is saying, I want to remove the party punch bowl. I am going to remove all of the excess buying that we're doing to keep this market higher. But are they going to let the market correct? Historically, over the last 10 years, they have not allowed the market to correct. Anytime they had tried to do proper monetary policy, the markets have always reacted strongly to the downside. And basically, the Fed had always retracted its disciplinary monetary policy, allowing a market to ride the speculative wave. By allowing for policies that are very speculative friendly, bubble friendly, by removing all other trades except for stocks, the Federal Reserve has been bumping up the stock market. So we're gonna see finally what happens with this unraveling. Traders are already betting right now that the market seems like it wants to correct a little bit. So we're going to see what happens here. Keep in mind the S&P in general has been bouncing pretty strong from the S&P 4500 support level. We're nowhere near that right now. We're at 4670, but the tape this week seemed very weak. It seemed like any rally was sold right into. We're going to see what happens next week. Yeah, a lot of action going on. I would really pay attention to Bitcoin as well. Not necessarily for the trade, but maybe as to gauge the idea of what's going to happen with the markets. Because a lot of people were speculating on Bitcoin, mainly because it is a bet against the US dollar in a way. You're buying Bitcoin, you're buying it with US dollars. So a devalued US dollar would really increase Bitcoin. And honestly, for that same reason, the stock market has been going up. Is anyone really richer right now if your cost of goods goes up tremendously? Yeah, if you're very rich, yes, because you're not going to spend that much money on food, clothing, shelter, that kind of stuff. But if you're poor, or if you have a portfolio of even $200,000 or less, you're spending a lot more on rent. You're spending a lot more money on food. You're spending more money on even just basic electricity and oil at the pumps. So I don't really see anyone really getting rich. Being rich is an illusion right now if you have a portfolio less than 200,000, in my opinion. Anyway, I gave a long rant about watching Bitcoin. I really do think you should pay attention to it. Even if you're not trading crypto, pay attention to Bitcoin, because the bet on Bitcoin is no different than the bet on the stock market. It's just a more beta bet. And what I mean by that is, as the value of the dollar gets lower, or as a dollar essentially devalues, Bitcoin continues to ride the wave higher, or if the value of the dollar goes up, Bitcoin will tend to go down, and the same with the overall markets. With the Fed removing the punch bowl, the value of the dollar might start to rise a little bit. So we'll start to see how that affects the market. That's something I want you guys to pay attention to. The reason I went on that rant like that is because I looked at earnings calendar. There isn't a heck of a lot to talk about. So let's go over some trades from last week, and I think they're going to continue this week. The first one is Lucid. Lucid had a kind of a tear of a run from 33 bucks a share all the way to $42 a share. I think we're going to continue to watch that this week. You have to watch Tesla, you guys. Tesla had some huge action this week. I think a lot of people that have sold Tesla have been rebuying it into this week, or people have been taking the pieces of Tesla that Elon Musk has sold. Elon Musk sold $12 billion worth of Tesla, and the price is basically where it was at. Like, people just love this freaking stock. So it's one to pay attention to. Outside of that, Baba has had a breakout run. I've been talking about Baba the last few weeks on the channel, that I thought 112 was a very good price to be buying Baba. It's at like 130. Lastly, I want to talk about basically Virgin Galactic's new company, Virgin Orbit. I guess it's going to be similar to space. I think they're going to be kind of working together, but it had it basically had its SPAC related release recently. And initially it sold off because space basically is a turd. The stock space basically it was a turd. And Virgin Orbit is having some speculative action towards the end of the week. We saw it rise heavily into Friday. I think this is one of my main stocks to be watching next week. Last stock I want to talk about is LYFT. It's having some weird action where it's like it's getting pops and then it's getting dropped. Now, normally I don't like to trade names that aren't like breaking out one way or the other, but this is one that I think is going to be interesting. I think it's trying to pick a direction, and when it does, just be prepared to be on the proper side or join in on the proper side. So that's the last one I want to talk about, LYFT. I'm guessing Uber is going to be relatively correlated, but like I'm noticing the price action happening in LYFT. Other than that, all of the other names that I talked about last Sunday, they seem like they're continuing to bleed out. Now, I know I keep mentioning Palantir, and I'm going to say this once again. Palantir has been bleeding out. I kind of actually hope it stays this low for a few months. And why is that? I want to have the opportunity. There's a certain amount of money I make per month from day trading. And, before I used to day trade and then buy an index fund with my proceeds, or try to build a slightly bigger bankroll to trade in larger in size. But the past year, I've been slowly adding, rather than putting it into index funds as I thought they were overloaded, I've been putting it into Palantir. I know the price of Palantir keeps dropping. And once again, this is not a trade I recommend for everyone. Every once in a while, I pick stocks or a trade that will hopefully get me out of grinding at the current level I'm trading at into a higher level. Now, I fucked up in 2020 doing it, and I had to spend the year rebuilding. Palantir is kind of one of my stocks that is that pick for my long-term kind of investment rather than the overall markets. Palantir, this is a very high-risk way to invest. But, I work in the industry. I used to work in the industry, Palantir is, and they just dominate. And I'm very convinced of it. Please do your own due diligence. This is not a recommendation for anyone. This is to show you that despite me having a very good day trading year last year, I'm upside down quite a bit on Palantir stock. So, and like I said, there's a certain amount of money that I make per month just day trading. I hope to be able to enter Palantir. Even if it continues to bleed lower, I'm pretty convinced of it as an investment. We'll see. We'll see. At some point, I'll probably stop buying it when I feel like I have way too much of a position. I can move on to other things. But I feel like this is a name I want to have. A lot of these names take time to run. If you take a look at AMD, one of my mistakes with AMD was selling so much of it when it just started to run. It took a long time for AMD, but once it started compounding, it just went for years. So that was honestly one of my regrets, selling AMD so soon as it started to pop, not holding it anywhere near the prices it's at right now. So anyway, let's go right into earnings calendar. So this brings me to my next biggest loser for last year, TLRY. TLRY, I'm probably upside down right now, 100K. And TLRY wasn't like Palantir. That was an investment for me. That was like, I really do believe in the company. I really believe in what they're capable of doing. But TLRY wasn't supposed to be an investment for me. I think I started buying TLRY as high as 21, really small size at that point in time, probably like 1,000 shares at that point in time, and it dropped to 17. I added 17, dropped to like 16, added at 16, dropped, and it's at $6 a share. I really have not been adding too much. I feel like this. I don't feel like I screwed up the Palantir trade, but there's two names that I feel like I screwed up last year. I was very good at cutting trades when they stopped trading names like Space and all these other things when they were no longer action behind them. I feel like I really did fuck up on TLRY. Truth be told, even if I did believe in the speculative long-term marijuana, I should have been cutting and recycling my position, basically cutting at a loss, and then maybe buying it a little bit lower. As it continued to bleed out, I should have been doing more of that. Now, I did do some of that with TLRY, but personally, I'm holding the bag quite a bit. And yeah, it just sucks. But earnings calendar, Monday, we have TLRY. Thursday, I'm skipping Tuesday, I'm skipping Wednesday. Really nothing worth trading those 2 days. So on Thursday, watching Taiwan Semiconductor, TSM, and Delta Airlines. Airlines are always good trades, you guys, as trading vehicles. That's what I treat them as. We got banking stocks on Friday with JPM, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup. And there's a few other banks. Personally, of the three banks, if you're going to focus on the trade, JPM tends to trade really well, and it tends to trade very well the first hour of the morning. So that's kind of what I'm watching. So that's more or less it. That's all I have for this week. Probably TLRY. The last earnings on TLRY was a complete brick, meaning I was completely shocked because there was no price action despite the options contracts on TLRY indicating that there was going to be huge movement on TLRY one way or the other. That didn't really happen with TLRY. The TLRY trade last earnings calendar totally bricked. If it bricks this earnings calendar, I'm probably not going to mention it next earnings calendar as a good trade. So let's see what happens this week. Your boy Frugal Tiger is bag holding TLRY. I don't consider Palantir a big bag hold. TLRY is a bag hold, that's for sure. That's more or less it for me, you guys. Remember, watch Bitcoin, because I think Bitcoin can help indicate where speculative money is going to go. Are people cashing out and moving money back into cash through crypto? And is that going to be indicative of the overall markets? I think they're very heavily correlated. I don't think cryptocurrency is diversification out of the stock market. I think cryptocurrency is relatively correlated with the market. And we're gonna see what happens this week as Bitcoin has dropped off. Is this an indicator that something's about to happen with the markets? We'll see. Have your futures contracts and your short positions potentially ready, but don't go crazy yet. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next week. Till next time. I just want the money.